There are many agents what are bound to single provider and a couple of models. For example, if you use Cloud Code, you are to use Sonnet or Opus, and that's going to be all your selection at the moment. Unlike that, Kilo is much more powerful. Kilo is provider agnostic, and it allows you to work with dozens of different providers and hundreds of models. But what are those providers? Let's talk about that. So, provider is a company what hosts model, but not necessarily develops it. It sounds a little bit strange, but take a look. There are some models what are developed and delivered by the same company. For example, Anthropic develops Cloud Sonnet, Cloud Opus, and hosts them. Only Anthropic has access to them, only Anthropic can host them. So same does Google, for example. But that's not the only case. There are also open source models. Open source model is a model developed as an open source project. So you can contribute in the development if you are into open source and AI. For example, famous Qwen family is open source, so it's publicly available on GitHub. It developed mostly by Alibaba Cloud, a huge Chinese company, but and of course Alibaba Cloud hosts it. But it's not the only company what hosts Qwen Free family. There are also plenty of companies what also give you access to that. So Cerberus, Fireworks, Depinfra, Shoots, and many others. I can remember at least a dozen of them. So, open source model developed by the community, usually led by a single primary company, but also community can contribute, and then it can be hosted by many. Those are called inference providers. So inference providers, they run models as a service, giving you access to that. There are plenty of different projects. Theoretically, you could open your own inference provider, you know. And they can be, obviously, as any provider of any service, they can be very different for your experience. What will be the typical difference? So obviously different pricing. As a hosting company, company hosting an AI model, it can decide on pricing, make it completely free or make it very expensive. They can provide different context window, because context window size also depends on the provider hosting the model. What is a context window? We will talk in next video. So keep watching. Context window is very important. That's why I'm talking about it right now. So then for output, or tokens per second. Obviously, you don't want to use a very slow model, and model performance will depend on the company hosting it, so how quickly it's going to write a response. Then there is a latency. By latency, usually we mean time to first token, so time to response. What will be delay before model respond to you? It also heavily depends on infrastructure of a provider. And then reliability, so uptime. You don't want to use providers with low uptime, so it will interrupt your work all the time. Let's take a look. For pricing, can be very different. Some will take a lot, some will take much less. So we see what Shoots with floating 0.8 for Qwen Free currently asks 20 cents for 1 million of input tokens and 80 cents of output tokens. That we also discuss in the next video, by the way. Then while others can be more expensive, and some of the inference providers offering Qwen Free now will ask for example, $2 per 1 million input tokens. So 10 times difference in price. Quite significant, right? Then there is a context window. For now, for you, it's just enough to remember what the more, the merrier. So bigger context window is better for us. In this case, we see what Cerebras gives twice smaller context window, asking the same price as Together for the very same model. So difference can be huge while paying the same. And then the things like throughput, latency, and reliability, of course, matter a lot. Let's take a look. There is a project called OpenRouter. And here I have a list of providers, inference providers, for Qwen3. Each open source model will have some inference providers. So we can scroll down and see if we sort by price. What at the moment best offering will be by Deep Infra with 30 cents per million input tokens and $1.20 for 1 million output tokens. And then there will be some others getting more and more expensive while we not hit the maximum. I believe it should be something around $2 at the moment. Yes, so maximum price with different providers will be around $2. But that's not the only thing what's valuable to us. So we can sort them, for example, not only by price, but latency. So time before the first token dispatched, time to response. And we see what Basseton or together give you slightly over 1 second. And then we can see what, for example, Deep Infra, while being the cheapest, then brings you latency of almost 3 seconds. So response will be much slower. Well, pretty much understandable. That's what you get when you ask for a best price, right? Then last thing, what is also very important is throughput. So how quickly your tokens will be written. Here we see, like for example, Google Vertex will give you throughput of almost 120 tokens per second. Navita AI is slightly less, but around 100, then Fireworks, then Deep Infra. So Deep Infra, despite pretty low latency, gives in general pretty, like not the best latency, gives in general pretty decent throughput, which is nice. And last thing we want to see here is uptime. So if I sort by price, we see what uptime today. Uptime for even for cheapest providers is in general looks pretty good. Yesterday it wasn't like that. So yesterday all the cheapest providers were showing more something like that. So today Nebius AI Studio shows 89%. So basically each 10th request wasn't served. That doesn't look good to me. And yeah, GMI Cloud also shows some more or less statistics like that. So that relates to price. Obviously, more you pay, theoretically more reliable your provider is, but it's not always like that. So your experience may be different. Now, what is Killer Code API? What you can use in Killer Code? Killer Code API is a pay-as-you-go AI proxy provider. By itself, Killer Code doesn't host any models. Killer Code is not an AI provider, but Killer Code uses OpenRouter to work with very many providers and very many models. So we speak about 3 dozens of providers and few hundreds of models overall. So you can choose, you have a really long list to choose. What are the benefits of proxy? No subscription. So with very many providers, like with Google or Cloud, you will need to subscribe and then pay some money every month. And you're bound to this model then. If you're paying for this one, then even then OpenAI releases something new, you still will be working with your model, which may be performing already not that good in comparison with the newest model. So with Kilo API provider, so OpenRouter, you pay as you go, only for the consumption, no subscription, and you can use dozens of different providers and dozens of different models. Theoretically, using proxy service has a slight disadvantage because obviously proxy requests always will be slightly slower, but let's admit that. Anyway, AI model response will take 99% of the time. So in this proxy query, we speak about some microseconds. so it shouldn't be anyhow noticeable to you. So Kilo works with OpenRouter as an AI proxy provider. It's, from our point of view, is one of the best proxy services present at the market. But again, it's for you to decide. Maybe you prefer Requestly, a competitor to OpenRouter. Absolutely fine to us. Go with Requestly. Kilo is provider agnostic. So with Kilo, you can use best of all the worlds. You want OpenRouter, work with OpenRouter and switch to all the newest models. You have your own Google subscription, stick to Gemini and just work with Gemini provider. I will show you how in a second. So there are no limits and a long list of supported providers. So Kilo takes best of all worlds. Well, let's take a look how it works in Kilo. You already saw some profiles mentioning before. Now I want to show you how it works. So when we go to settings, first thing we see providers. Providers are very important. And by default, you will have one configuration profile. Profile is a set of settings to provider, API key if needed, and then model to work with. By default, you will have a default profile with KiloCode provider and with your KiloCode API key. You also can create more profiles using this button. Why use different profiles? Well, for example, pretty often you will want to have one very smart model and one maybe less smart but faster model, because also model response time will be very different. There are nano models of different providers, what will usually not well trained as smartest, not well trained as Opus or Gemini 2.5 Pro, but respond significantly faster because of that. So I can create configuration profile fast, and where I can set API provider I want to use. So as you see, there are a few dozens of different providers. In this case, I will stick to Kilo. And I can specify a model. So I will specify, for example, Nano from OpenAI GPT-5 Nano. So with save, now I have provider configuration profile fast, which uses KiloCode and which use GPT-5 Nano. Also, I can create one more profile. For example, I'm now working actively with Qwen, and Qwen I use directly from Alibaba Cloud because we have very generous free tier. So I can create I can create profile Qwen and set it to API provider Qwen code and work with Qwen directly via Qwen code, which works very nicely to me. I only need to choose model. I want to use plus here. Good. So that's how you create profiles. Now about profile providers. I want to switch back to my default. A provider you can use here and specify very many of the different providers you might use. If you're a beginner, my recommendation will be to stick to KiloCode. It's very convenient to start, no subscription fees, and very good for the beginners. And if you have some subscriptions, then might be a better choice to create a profile and use a provider accordingly. When I have my profiles created, I can choose them here. So I can switch to fast and use GPT-5 Nano. And I can switch to Gemini CLI and it will work with my Gemini CLI. Or I can switch to my Qwen code and it will use Qwen code as a connection. Now there is one more secret thing you need to know. For different tasks, there is no perfect model, right? As there is no perfect tool, there are also no perfect model. For different tasks, you may need different models. So one very cool feature to improve your user experience with Kilo is to have custom profiles for different tasks. You can go in settings and open here prompts. Those prompts are different support prompts or service prompts what do work with Kilo code more convenient. For example, enhance prompt button what help to enhance your prompt uses by default API configuration, but you can say specifically, I want it to work with fast, because to enhance my prompt, I don't really need super smart model. I don't need Opus or whatever smartest model at the moment. I want to get this prompt enhancement fast. So I will stick to fast configuration. And then maybe for then commit message generation, which we will discuss in the future videos, I also want to use some specific models. So for example, I will stick to Quenco. Very nice. So that's how you create profiles, choose providers, and then choose those profiles while working with Kilo code. And that's even how you can tune your support prompts or service prompts to make them work faster and better for you. That's a very good lesson today. Great job! One more down. In the next episode, we will finally discuss on what are the tokens and how is pricing built for most of the models Kilo code delivers. Keep watching!